Hi everybody, and welcome to Movie Recaps with Brit. Today, we will be taking a look at a movie titled Jumper. Without further ado, let's get started. In a small American rural town, David resides with his abusive father, William. His mother left when he was 5. At school, David hangs out with Millie, his crush, who aspires to travel the world. Aware of her dream, David gives her a snow globe featuring the Eiffel Tower. During this sweet moment, Mark interrupts, mocking David and tossing the snow globe onto a frozen lake. Determined, David steps onto the ice, but it cracks under his weight. Panic-stricken, he vanishes from the lake, reappearing in a library. Confused and scared, David disregards the recent events and heads home. As he arrives, William immediately berates him for being late. Frightened, David retreats to his room and locks the door. In a fit of rage, William forcefully pushes against the door. Just before it gives way, David vanishes and reappears at the library once more. Coming to terms with his newfound abilities, David embraces the fact that he has superpowers. He gathers his savings, leaves Millie's house a snow globe to let her know he's safe, and then flees to start a new life. He settles in the city, renting a modest room at a motel to experiment with his powers. Despite initial mishaps, he refines his skills by using pictures of his desired destinations. His first destination is the Empire State Building, a place tied to cherished memories of his mother, Mary. Feeling prepared, David scouts a bank's interior and later teleports into the vault to steal its contents in the evening. As David celebrates in his room, the bank uncovers the robbery. Roland arrives, posing as NSA, experienced in such cases, and suspects a jumper's involvement. 8 years later, David enjoys a lavish life with a penthouse in New York, mastering his powers for convenience. He fills his walls with landmark pictures for easy teleportation, even picnicking atop the Sphinx. During an evening in London, he carelessly teleports into a pub and picks up a girl. Griffin notices this recklessness but goes unnoticed by David. Meanwhile, another jumper appears in a jungle, trapped by wires preventing teleportation, leaving him incapacitated. Roland and his group, known as the Paladins, lay a trap for jumpers, viewing them as abominations. They kill a young boy without hesitation, then receive a call about their next target. Shortly after, David returns home and finds Roland there. Roland brings out the notes David stored in bank vaults over the years. Attempting to remove Roland, David is shocked by Roland's baton, limiting his teleportation to a small area. A fight ensues, and David teleports into a concealed room after disabling the baton. While Roland breaks down the wall, David seizes money and teleports away. Undeterred, Roland examines pictures, sending his team to David's usual jump sites. He discovers an old picture of Millie among David's belongings. Suddenly, David reappears in his old room. William, hearing a noise downstairs, hurries to meet his son, expressing his longing for David's presence. David briefly reassures William before vanishing once more. The following morning, he contemplates reconciling with William but can't bring himself to approach him. Instead, he visits Millie's home, where her astonished mother embraces him. Learning that Millie works at a local bar, he goes there but feels like a coward upon seeing an older Millie. Wanting to leave unnoticed, he collides with older Mark, who recognizes him and starts questioning. Millie overhears and confronts David, admitting she saw him earlier. Mark's jealousy leads to his advances on Millie, resulting in David punching him. A brawl ensues, spilling outside. David exploits the opportunity to push Mark through a fence and teleport him away discreetly. Appearing in the bank vault David had robbed, he threatens Mark before vanishing, leaving him confined as punishment. Returning to the bar, David converses with Millie, who gave up travel dreams for practical work. David discloses his banking job and invites Millie to Rome, and she agrees. Griffin overhears all this at the bar. Meanwhile, Roland poses as CIA, assaults a skeptical detective at the police station, and interrogates Mark, learning about David and Millie. Roland sends his men to Italy. In Rome, David and Millie check into a lavish hotel. Millie grows suspicious of David's job, but he reassures her. They explore Rome, and are discreetly observed by Griffin. They attempt the Colosseum, but it's closed. As Millie gets distracted, David teleports inside to open a side door, acting as if he stumbled upon it. They explore, enjoying historical views, with David secretly unlocking doors. Approaching the lower area, David encounters Griffin urinating on a pillar. Griffin teleports before David, and reveals that there are other jumpers. Griffin chastises David for involving a non-jumper and drawing dangerous attention. Paladins arrive, chasing the duo. David is immobilized by a baton, but experienced Griffin swiftly incapacitates the Paladins. Griffin enlightens David about Paladins before vanishing. A Colosseum employee arrives, sees the commotion and calls police. David leaps into Griffin's teleportation scar, unveiling a hidden desert refuge. Enraged, Griffin reprimands David for leaving Millie, and David promptly teleports back to rescue her. Outside, they're apprehended by awaiting police. Hours pass, with ongoing interrogation as they await the US Embassy magistrate, who turns out to be Mary. Mary arrives, releasing David from handcuffs and urging him to flee before more Paladins appear. David's pursuit of Mary is blocked by a cop, whom he teleports to Egypt. Back at the station, David informs Millie they were released, though she's skeptical. He urges her to trust him, taking her to the airport. Millie demands an explanation. David reveals a bag of money but withholds answers, asserting that they can't stay together. Feeling betrayed, Millie flies alone to her hometown. Meanwhile, Roland's team informs him of their defeat, sensing someone knew of their arrival. Roland meets William, who pretends ignorance about David's whereabouts. William confesses he won't involve the police even if he sees David, and this annoys Roland. In Griffin's hideout, David learns Griffin hunts and kills Paladins who've persecuted jumpers for centuries. Griffin warns about Paladin threats to their loved ones, troubling David. While Millie is safe on a flight, David teleports home, finding William dead. Overwhelmed, David transports William to a hospital, but it's futile. Enraged, David confronts Mark at the police station, compelling him to admit divulging information to Roland, including David's feelings for Millie. Realizing the urgency, David aims to intercept Roland before Millie's return. He teleports to Griffin's hideout to steal Paladin research, but Griffin objects due to Roland being extremely dangerous. Suggesting an alliance then, David is turned down, because Griffin prefers working solo. Griffin teleports to Tokyo, David follows, persistently discussing collaboration. Griffin demonstrates a fun teleportation with a car, revealing that he had a friend who died trying to teleport a building. David's persistent pleas sway Griffin to team up, on the condition of no further contact. They teleport to the airport, but Millie has already left after landing. David inquires at the bar, and learns Roland came looking for Millie there too from a waitress. David swiftly teleports to Millie's apartment, relieved by her well-being. Despite Millie's reluctance to see him, the approaching Paladins prompt David to confess, proving his words by teleporting a snow globe. Millie's fear triggers David to take her to Griffin's hideout. Furious, Griffin protests, knowing Paladins possess a wormhole opening device that gives them access due to scars left by their teleportation. Meanwhile, Roland and his group reach Millie's apartment and activate the feared machine. The boys hide, with David discovering Griffin's research on his mother, Mary, being a Paladin too. Roland arrives, capturing David with electric wires. As Roland nears execution, Griffin intervenes with a flamethrower, battling Roland. Griffin uses a bus against Roland, and though Roland survives, he's pushed into the wormhole by the flamethrower. Griffin follows to continue the confrontation at Millie's apartment. Millie rescues David by cutting wires, making him promise to leave her alone after taking her home. David agrees, confessing his lifelong love for her. Their tender moment is disrupted by Griffin, who returns with the Paladin's device, believing they're safe from pursuit. Yet Roland exploits Griffin's jump scare. He seizes Millie with a hook before it closes. David is eager to save her, but Griffin plans to use a bomb to eliminate the Paladins, disregarding Millie's safety. To save Millie, David seizes the bomb and hurls it to the Colosseum. In the ensuing fight, they teleport globally, culminating atop the Empire State Building. David discards the detonator, forcing them to jump after it. Griffin summons a truck, aiming to strike David on a Chechen battlefield. Amidst the war, Griffin grabs the detonator, but David overpowers him, pinning him to a high-current pylon, rendering him temporarily trapped. David teleports back to Millie's apartment and discovers her bound to the wall. While attempting her rescue, Roland strikes him with a baton and captures him. Roland prepares to end David, but Millie's apology boosts David's resolve, propelling his powers to new heights. Suddenly, the room vanishes, reappearing in the Huron River. In the water, Millie steadies David, helping him teleport to an old library. After awakening David, Millie alerts him to Roland's presence. David relocates Millie to safety, then transports Roland to an isolated cave in the Grand Canyon. He reminds Roland on how he has just saved his life from shark-infested water before leaving. Days later, David traces his mother's clues to a snowy house. Here, he finds Mary leading a new life with a daughter, acknowledging she left due to his powers. Mary, a Paladin, embraces him and explains her limits. Accepting her as an adversary, David departs and reunites with Millie, embarking for warmer horizons together. Thank you for watching our movie recap. While it may seem simple, it actually took a lot of hard work and dedication to produce. If you enjoyed the video, we kindly ask you to show your support by liking and subscribing to our channel. By doing so, you'll stay updated on our latest content and help us continue creating more in-depth analyses and critiques of the movies you love. Thank you again for your support.